Two aircraft, both electric, both ultralight, both classified under FAA Part 103, meaning neither one requires a pilot's license to fly. Both cost less than a house, and both promise to do something that humanity has dreamed about for over a century. Give you, an ordinary person, the ability to walk outside, sit down, and fly. But that's where the similarities end. One is an open-frame multicopter, raw, visceral, thrilling, like riding a motorcycle through the sky. The other is a sleek, fixed-wing aircraft, refined, elegant, efficient, like piloting a sports car through the clouds. One was born from a viral video that broke the internet. The other was developed in total secrecy for over a decade by a reclusive engineer who refused to talk to the press. One costs around $140,000. The other costs $190,000. And right now in 2026, both of them are available. Not as prototypes, not as pre-orders, as actual, deliverable, flyable personal aircraft that real people are flying right now. The Jetson 1 and the pivotal Helix are the two most significant personal aircraft on the planet. And if you've ever seriously considered buying a personal flying machine, if you've ever looked at your bank account and then looked at the sky and thought maybe, just maybe, then this video is for you. We're going to break down every single aspect of these two aircraft: design philosophy, performance, safety, build quality, flying experience, cost of ownership, practical usability, and ultimately, which one you should actually buy, depending on who you are and what you want from personal flight. No sponsorships, no bias, just an honest, detailed, head-to-head comparison of the two machines fighting for the right to be called the best personal aircraft in the world. Let's settle this. The origin stories. Before we compare specs and performance, you need to understand where these aircraft came from, because the origin stories tell you everything about the philosophy behind each machine, and philosophy determines design, which determines experience. Let's start with the Jetson 1. The Jetson 1 was born in Sweden, created by two men, Tomas Batan and Peter Ternström. Their story is the classic startup narrative: a bold vision, limited resources, years of building, crashing, rebuilding, and iterating in relative obscurity. Prototype after prototype, failure after failure, each crash teaching them something new about structural loads, motor placement, control response, and battery management. Then in October 2021, they uploaded a video, a single video, a pilot flying the Jetson 1 through a forest in Tuscany, on Italy, weaving between trees, skimming over a lake, climbing above the canopy, all while grinning like a child who just discovered a superpower. That video detonated across the internet. Hundreds of millions of views. Every major media outlet covered it. The Jetson 1 became the most famous personal aircraft in history overnight. Bookings opened and sold out almost immediately. The waitlist stretched into years, and by September 2025, Jetson began delivering aircraft to paying customers worldwide. In 2026, Jetson has scaled production significantly, though demand still far outstrips supply. The price has climbed from the original $92,000 to approximately $140,000, a consequence of overwhelming demand, limited production capacity, and continuous improvements to the aircraft. Now, the pivotal Helix. Completely different story. The Helix, formerly known as the Opener Blackfly, was created by Marcus Leng, a Canadian engineer who is, by all accounts, one of the most brilliant and most private individuals in modern aviation. While Jetson built their brand through viral marketing and social media, Marcus Leng did the exact opposite. He worked in near-total secrecy for over a decade. No press releases, no flashy social media campaigns, no TED Talks, no investor roadshows. Just years of quiet, obsessive, relentless engineering in the background, funded largely by private means. When the Blackfly was finally unveiled to the public, the aviation world was genuinely stunned. Not because someone had built a personal VTOL, several companies were attempting that, but because someone had built one that was this refined, on this elegant, and this far along in development, and nobody had heard a single word about it until it was ready. The aircraft was subsequently renamed the Pivotal Helix as the company evolved toward production. By 2026, the Helix is available for purchase, with deliveries ongoing and a growing community of owner pilots sharing their experiences. Two aircraft, two completely opposite approaches to building them. One was forged in the spotlight, the other was forged in silence, and both resulted in machines that genuinely deliver on the promise of personal flight. Design philosophy. This is where the fundamental difference between these two aircraft becomes crystal clear, and it's the single most important factor in deciding which one is right for you. The Jetson 1 is a multicopter, 4 arms, 8 coaxial electric rotors, 2 on each arm, spinning in opposite directions. An open aluminum roll cage cockpit, no wings, no aerodynamic surfaces for forward flight. Just rotors, batteries, a frame, and a seat. Think of it this way. The Jetson 1 is a drone, a very large, very sophisticated, very well-engineered drone, scaled up to carry a human being. It flies the way a drone flies. It hovers by spinning its rotors. It moves forward by tilting slightly in the direction of travel. It stops by leveling out. Simple, intuitive, raw. The Pivotal Helix is something entirely different. One, it's a fixed-wing aircraft with VTOL capability. It has 8 small lift rotors for vertical takeoff and landing, but it also has a fixed wing for aerodynamic lift and a rear pusher propeller for forward thrust. This means the Helix flies in 2 distinct modes. Mode 1, helicopter mode. The lift rotors spin, the aircraft hovers and maneuvers vertically, just like the Jetson. Mode 2, airplane mode. The aircraft accelerates forward, the wing generates lift, the pusher propeller provides thrust, and the lift rotors can reduce power or stop entirely because the wing is doing the work. This is a critical distinction, and it affects everything. The Jetson 1's multicopter design means it's always working hard. Every second it's in the air, those 8 rotors are spinning at high speed, fighting gravity with brute force. There's no wing to help. There's no aerodynamic efficiency. It's muscling its way through the sky on pure rotor thrust alone. The Helix's wing-borne design means that once it's up to speed, the wing takes over. The aircraft is gliding through the air efficiently, like an airplane, with the pusher propeller providing just enough thrust to maintain speed. The physics are fundamentally more efficient. In practical terms, this means the Helix can potentially achieve better range and endurance for the same battery capacity, because wing-borne flight requires dramatically less energy than pure rotor-borne hover. But, and this is a big but, the Jetson 1's pure multicopter design gives it something the Helix can't match: maneuverability. The Jetson can hover indefinitely in one spot. It can slide sideways. It can rotate in place. It can fly slowly through trees, around obstacles in tight spaces. It's agile in a way that the Helix simply cannot replicate, because the Helix needs forward airspeed to generate wing lift. So right here, at the design level, we already see the fundamental trade-off. Jetson 1, maximum agility and simplicity at the cost of efficiency. Pivotal Helix, maximum efficiency and elegance at the cost of agility. Neither is better. They're different tools for different desires. Performance comparison. Let's get into the numbers. And I'm going to be honest about what we know, what we don't know, and where the manufacturer's claims need to be taken with appropriate skepticism. Starting with speed, the Jetson 1 has a maximum speed of approximately 63 miles per hour. The Pivotal Helix also targets a similar speed range, roughly 60 to 62 miles per hour in cruise. Under FAA Part 103, ultralight aircraft are limited to a maximum airspeed of 63 miles per hour in level flight. So both aircraft are designed to operate right at that regulatory ceiling. In terms of top speed, it's essentially a tie. Both are governed by regulation rather than capability. Flight time. The Jetson 1 offers approximately 20 minutes of flight time on a full charge. The Pivotal Helix, thanks to its more efficient wing-borne cruise, can potentially stretch that to 25 minutes or slightly more under optimal conditions. This is where the Helix's fixed-wing design pays dividends. Once it's cruising on its wing, it's sipping energy rather than gulping it. 5 extra minutes might not sound like much, but when your total flight time is only 20 minutes, a 5-minute extension is a 25% improvement. That's significant. Range. This follows directly from flight time and efficiency. The Jetson 1, flying at maximum speed for 20 minutes, covers roughly 20 miles. The pivotal Helix, with its superior cruise efficiency, can cover a similar or slightly greater distance, potentially 20 to 25 miles under ideal conditions. Again, the wing gives the Helix an inherent advantage in range per unit of energy. Weight. Both aircraft are designed to comply with FAA Part 103, which requires an empty weight of no more than 254 pounds for powered ultralights. The Jetson 1 weighs approximately 190 pounds empty, well under the limit. The Helix is also designed to fall under this threshold, though its fixed wing, pusher propeller, and 8 lift rotors add structural complexity that brings it closer to the limit. Payload and pilot weight. Both aircraft are designed for a single occupant. The Jetson 1 has a listed maximum pilot weight of approximately 210 pounds, though some sources suggest slightly higher limits with certain configurations. The Helix has similar pilot weight limitations. If you're a larger individual, and this is worth checking carefully with both manufacturers before purchasing. Altitude. Both aircraft are designed for low-altitude flight. Part 103 limits ultralight operations to below certain airspace ceilings, and both manufacturers recommend flying at relatively low altitudes, typically under 400 feet above ground level. Neither aircraft is designed for high-altitude cruise, and both lack pressurized cabins or supplemental oxygen systems. Let me put the performance comparison simply. If you want to fly short distances, hover in one spot, and maneuver through tight spaces, the Jetson 1's performance profile is better suited. If you want to cover more ground, fly more efficiently, and maximize every minute of battery life, the Helix has the edge. Cockpit and flying experience. This is where these two aircraft diverge most dramatically. And honestly, this might be the deciding factor for most buyers, because personal aircraft aren't just about specs, they're about how it feels to fly. The Jetson 1 has an open cockpit. Let me be specific about what that means. There is no windshield. There is no canopy. There is no enclosure of any kind. You are sitting in an aluminum roll cage, essentially a protective frame around you, completely exposed to the wind, the elements, and the sky. When you fly the Jetson 1, you feel everything. The wind in your face, the rotor wash swirling around you, the ground dropping away beneath your feet, the temperature of the air changing as you climb. The sound of 8 electric motors humming at different pitches as the flight computer makes thousands of micro adjustments per second. It is, by every account from people who have flown it, an absolutely visceral experience. Multiple pilots have described it as the closest thing to a superhero experience that exists in reality. You're not sitting inside an aircraft. You are the aircraft. There's nothing between you and the sky. The pivotal Helix, by contrast, has a fully enclosed cockpit. You sit inside a streamlined fuselage pod with a canopy over your head. You're protected from wind, rain, debris, and temperature extremes. The flight experience is smoother, quieter, more comfortable, and more civilized. When you fly the Helix, you feel like a pilot. When you fly the Jetson 1, you feel like a bird. Controls. And the Jetson 1 uses a simple joystick control system. Push forward to go forward. Pull back to slow down. Left and right to turn. Up on the throttle to climb. Down to descend. The flight computer handles all the complex stabilization. You just tell it where you want to go. Jetson has also developed a dedicated flight simulator that allows pilots to practice before their first real flight. A significant investment in pilot training and safety. The pivotal Helix also uses a simplified control interface with fly-by-wire technology. It features autonomous assistance systems, including auto hover, where the aircraft holds its position hands-free, auto land, and geofencing that prevents you from flying into restricted airspace or beyond preset boundaries. These autonomous features add layers of safety that reduce pilot workload. Both aircraft are designed to be flyable by people with zero aviation experience. Both manufacturers claim that their control systems can be learned in minutes rather than hours. But the underlying philosophy is different. Jetson says, We'll make it simple enough that anyone can fly. Pivotal says, we'll make it smart enough that the aircraft helps you fly. Both approaches work, but they create different relationships between pilot and machine. Safety. If you're seriously considering spending six figures on a personal flying machine that you're going to strap yourself into and lift off the ground, safety should be your #1 priority. Period. So let's examine this carefully. The Jetson 1 features triple redundant flight computers, three independent computers running simultaneously, cross-checking each other and taking over instantly if one fails. It has LiDAR-based terrain tracking that monitors the ground below the aircraft in real time. It has a ballistic parachute system, a rocket-deployed parachute that can bring the entire aircraft and pilot safely to the ground in an emergency. And it can maintain stable flight even if one of its 8 motors fails completely. That motor redundancy deserves emphasis. With 8 coaxial motors on 4 arms, why the loss of any single motor still leaves the aircraft with enough thrust and control authority to fly and land safely. The flight computer instantly compensates for the lost motor, redistributing power to the remaining 7. You might not even notice it happen. The Pivotal Helix also features significant safety systems. Autonomous auto hover holds the aircraft in a stable position if the pilot releases the controls. The aircraft just stops and waits. Auto land can bring the aircraft to a safe landing autonomously if the pilot becomes incapacitated or confused. Geofencing creates invisible boundaries that the aircraft physically cannot cross, preventing you from flying into restricted airspace, overpopulated areas, or beyond your preset flight area. The Helix has 8 lift rotors for vertical flight, providing similar motor redundancy to the Jetson 1 during hover and transition. The fixed wing adds an additional safety layer during forward flight. If all lift rotors were to fail simultaneously during cruise, the wing would still generate lift, giving the pilot time to execute a controlled glide toward a landing area. This is something the Jetson 1 fundamentally cannot do because without its rotors, it has no lift source at all. That glide capability is a meaningful safety advantage for the Helix. In the absolute worst-case scenario, total power failure, the Helix could potentially glide to a landing. The Jetson 1, in the same scenario, would depend entirely on its ballistic parachute. Both aircraft operate under FAA Part 103, which, it must be noted, has minimal regulatory safety requirements. Much Part 103 ultralights do not require airworthiness certification. They are not held to the same structural, testing, or redundancy standards as certified aircraft. Both Jetson and Pivotal voluntarily exceed Part 103 minimums significantly, but buyers should understand that neither aircraft has undergone the same rigorous certification process as, say, a Cessna or a Robinson helicopter. Flight altitude philosophy also differs. Jetson's own videos and recommendations generally show flights at very low altitudes, often just a few meters above the ground. This is almost certainly a deliberate safety philosophy. At low altitude, even a worst-case scenario results in a shortfall. The Helix appears to operate at somewhat higher altitudes in its demonstration videos, made possible by its wing-borne glide capability. My honest assessment on safety: both aircraft take safety seriously, both exceed the regulatory minimums, and both have multiple redundancy systems. The Helix has a slight structural safety advantage due to its wing and glide capability. The Jetson 1 compensates with its ballistic parachute and extremely low-altitude flight profile. Neither aircraft has a significant public safety incident record as of 2026, which is encouraging for both. Build quality and engineering. The Jetson 1's construction is deliberately minimalist. Aluminum roll cage frame, exposed wiring, visible battery packs, carbon fiber propellers bolted directly to the motors. There's an almost agricultural honesty to it. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is cosmetic. Everything you see has a functional purpose. This minimalism is both a strength and a concern. The strength is simplicity. Fewer components means fewer things that can break, easier maintenance and faster repairs. The concern is exposure. Batteries, wiring, and structural elements are exposed to weather, UV radiation, dust, and debris. Long-term durability in harsh environments is something that only time and accumulated flight hours will reveal. The pivotal helix has a more finished, more polished construction. The enclosed fuselage pod protects the pilot and internal components from the elements. The overall aesthetic is more refined. It looks like a production aircraft rather than an engineering prototype. The fixed wing is a proper aerodynamic surface, and the overall fit and finish suggest a higher level of manufacturing maturity. However, this added complexity means more components, more potential failure points, and potentially more expensive repairs. The wing, the pusher propeller, the transition mechanisms between hover and cruise, each of these is an additional system that requires maintenance and inspection. In terms of engineering heritage, both companies have impressive pedigrees. Jetson's iterative design process, building, crashing, learning, rebuilding, has produced an aircraft that is refined through real-world experience rather than computer simulation alone. Pivotal's decade-plus development timeline under Marcus Leng's perfectionistic eye has produced an aircraft that reflects deep, patient engineering rather than rapid iteration. Both approaches are valid. Jetson moved fast and learned from failure. Pivotal moved slowly and aimed for perfection. The results speak for themselves. Both aircraft fly, both aircraft work, and both aircraft have paying customers. Practical usability. You've bought the aircraft. It's sitting in your garage. Now what? How do you actually live with each of these machines? Storage. The Jetson 1 is compact. 4 arms fold inward, and the aircraft can fit on a small trailer or in the back of a large SUV. Storing it in a standard garage is feasible, though you'll want to protect it from moisture and dust given its open construction. The Helix, with its fixed wing and larger footprint, requires more storage space. Think of it as needing roughly the space of a small car, wider than the Jetson due to the wing, even when partially disassembled. Transport. Getting to your flying site is part of the ownership experience. The Jetson 1, being lighter and more compact, is easier to trailer behind a car. Some owners transport it in enclosed trailers to protect it from road debris and weather. The Helix, being larger, requires a wider trailer or a dedicated transport solution. Neither aircraft is something you'll fly from your driveway in a suburban neighborhood. You need open space away from people and structures. Setup time. The Jetson 1 is designed for relatively quick setup. Unfold the arms, check the batteries, run through the pre-flight checklist, and fly. The entire process can take 15 to 20 minutes for an experienced owner. The Helix has a similar setup process, though the wing and pusher propeller add a few additional pre-flight checks. Charging. Both aircraft use lithium polymer or lithium-ion battery packs. Charging from depleted to full takes several hours on standard power. Neither manufacturer currently offers rapid charging solutions comparable to electric car superchargers. This means that in practice, you'll fly 1 or 2 sessions per day unless you have spare battery packs. Weather sensitivity. The Jetson 1, with its open cockpit, is weather dependent. Rain, strong wind, or cold temperatures directly affect the pilot. You're not flying a Jetson 1 in a rainstorm or during winter in Minnesota. The Helix, with its enclosed cockpit, offers better weather tolerance. Light rain and moderate cold are manageable, though neither aircraft is designed for instrument meteorological conditions or severe weather. Maintenance. Both aircraft are relatively simple machines compared to traditional aircraft. Regular maintenance involves checking motor bearings, inspecting propeller condition, monitoring battery health, updating flight software, and inspecting structural components. Neither manufacturer has published detailed long-term maintenance cost data as of 2026, but the electric powertrain inherently requires less maintenance than internal combustion engines. No oil changes, no spark plugs, no fuel system maintenance. Community. The Jetson 1 has a larger and more active owner community in 2026, driven partly by its viral fame and earlier market entry. Online forums, social media groups, and owner meetups are established and growing. The pivotal Helix community is smaller but passionate. Owners tend to be more technically oriented and deeply engaged with the engineering details of their aircraft. Cost of ownership. Let's talk money, not just the sticker price, the total cost of owning and flying each aircraft. Purchase price. The Jetson 1 is currently priced at approximately $128,000, with announcements indicating an increase to $140,000. The pivotal Helix is priced at approximately $190,000. That's a gap of roughly $50,000 to $62,000. Significant enough to buy a nice car with the difference. Electricity cost per flight. Both aircraft consume roughly 5 to 8 kilowatt hours per flight session. At average U.S. electricity rates, that's approximately $1 to $2 per flight. Compared to the fuel costs of any gasoline or turbine-powered aircraft, this is essentially free. A Robinson R-22 helicopter costs roughly $250 to $300 per flight hour in fuel alone. The electricity cost advantage of these electric aircraft is enormous. Insurance. As of 2026, insurance for personal ultralight VTOL aircraft is still an evolving market. Specialized aviation insurance providers are beginning to offer policies for both the Jetson 1 and the Helix, but premiums vary widely based on pilot experience, location, and intended use. Expect to pay several $1,000s annually, comparable to insuring a high-performance motorcycle or a small traditional aircraft. Battery replacement. This is the hidden cost that most buyers don't consider. Lithium battery packs degrade over time and charge cycles. After several hundred charge cycles, battery capacity will diminish, reducing flight time and performance. Replacement battery packs for either aircraft will likely cost several $1,000s, potentially $10,000 or more, depending on the chemistry and capacity. This is an ongoing ownership cost that should be factored into your budget. Depreciation. This is where things get interesting. The Jetson 1, despite its price increases, has shown strong resale value. Demand still exceeds supply, and used units are selling at or above original purchase price. The Helix, being newer to the market and produced in smaller quantities, has limited resale data. As production scales for both aircraft, depreciation patterns will become clearer. Total cost of ownership over 5 years. My rough estimate, Jetson 1, approximately $155,000 to $170,000, including purchase, batteries, insurance, maintenance, and electricity. Pivotal Helix, approximately $205,000 to $225,000 on the same basis. The Jetson 1 is the more affordable option, both at purchase and over the ownership lifecycle. Whether the Helix's additional refinement and efficiency justify the premium is a personal judgment. Who should buy which? After all of this analysis, here's my honest recommendation. And I want to be clear, there is no wrong choice here. Both of these aircraft are remarkable achievements of engineering. Both will give you the experience of personal flight. Both are worth their price for the right buyer. Buy the Jetson 1 if you want the most visceral, thrilling, raw flying experience possible. If you want to feel the wind in your face and the adrenaline in your veins. If you value agility and maneuverability, hovering in place, sliding sideways, flying slowly through obstacles. If you're on a tighter budget and want the most accessible entry point into personal VTOL ownership. If you want to join a larger, more established owner community. If you see yourself flying low over fields, forests, and open landscapes, feeling like you're riding a motorcycle through the sky. Buy the Pivotal Helix if you want a more refined, more comfortable, more efficient flying experience. If you prefer an enclosed cockpit that protects you from the elements. If you value the safety advantage of a wing that can glide in an emergency. If you want autonomous features like auto hover and auto land that add layers of pilot assistance. If you plan to fly in a wider range of weather conditions. If you appreciate elegant engineering and are willing to pay a premium for polish and sophistication. If you see yourself cruising smoothly above the landscape, feeling like a pilot rather than a daredevil. The Jetson 1 is a flying motorcycle. The Pivotal Helix is a flying sports car. Both get you off the ground. Both give you freedom, but they speak to different personalities. Now, different desires and different definitions of what personal flight should feel like. The bigger picture, 2026 and beyond. Before we close, I want to zoom out and talk about what these two aircraft represent in the larger context of personal aviation in 2026. We are living through the very beginning of a revolution. The Jetson 1 and the Pivotal Helix are the Model Ts of personal flight. The first generation of machines that prove the concept works, that prove ordinary people can fly, and that prove there's a real, sustainable market for personal VTOL aircraft. They're not perfect. 20 minutes of flight time isn't enough. 63 miles per hour isn't fast enough. The prices are still too high for mass adoption. Battery technology still limits range and endurance, and the regulatory framework is still catching up. But think about where we were just 5 years ago. In 2021, personal VTOL aircraft were curiosities, viral videos that seemed too good to be true. In 2026, they're real products with real customers, real communities, and real flight hours accumulating every single day. 5 years from now, in 2031, battery technology will improve, prices will drop, flight times will extend, regulations will mature, and the aircraft that succeed the Jetson 1 and the pivotal Helix will make today's machines look like the Wright Flyer compared to a Boeing 747. But someone had to go first. Someone had to prove it could be done. Someone had to build the machines, take the risks, earn the trust of the first customers, and show the world that personal flight isn't a fantasy. Jetson did that. Pivotal did that. And regardless of which one you choose to buy, you're not just buying an aircraft. You're buying into the first chapter of a story that will transform human transportation forever. And that, more than any spec sheet or price comparison, is what makes both of these machines worth every penny. So there it is. Jetson 1 versus Pivotal Helix. Two extraordinary machines. Two very different philosophies. Two paths to the same destination. Personal flight for everyone. If you forced me to choose just one, I'd buy the Jetson 1 for the experience. Because nothing else on Earth makes you feel more alive than flying in an open cockpit with the wind in your face and nothing between you and the sky. But I deeply respect anyone who chooses the Helix because its engineering elegance, its enclosed comfort, and its wing-borne efficiency represent the more mature, more sustainable vision of what personal flight will eventually become. The motorcycle or the sports car, the thrill or the refinement, the rebel or the gentleman. Which one would you buy? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your reasoning. And if you've actually flown either of these aircraft, please share your experience. The community needs real pilot perspectives, not just spec sheet comparisons. If this video helped you understand these two incredible machines, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with anyone who's ever looked at the sky and wondered what it would feel like to just go up. Until next time, keep looking up.